Let's talk about some times where the critics were wrong. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 movies that I love that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. So essentially these are movies that the critics don't really recommend you guys go and see, but they're movies that I love. But before I get into this video, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below some movies that you love that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes or have bad reviews all around, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one. Alright, so coming in at number 10 for me is going to be Kingsman: The Golden Circle, aka Kingsman 2. Now I watched the Kingsman movies for the first time last year. They're some of the better action spy / comedy films that we've gotten in the past few years, and I think the second one is almost on par with the first. So I was honestly shocked to see that this movie was at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes because I enjoyed the hell out of this one. I think that, again, it's not as good as the first Kingsman, but if I want to watch two back to back, that's a damn fun double feature right there. We get the country roads moment, the action's arguably better in this movie, and I'm always a sucker for a story of like this agency that kind of gets shut down. And it honestly kind of reminds me of like Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol when a spy organization kind of has to go on the run or get shut down. So I had a lot of fun with this and I don't know why it got 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Next on my list is a rom-com film, She's the Man, with Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum. Now listen, before you guys hate on this movie, it is such a feel-good movie. It's an absurd premise. Essentially, Amanda Bynes goes undercover as a dude so that she can end up playing soccer, and they end up going against her old school. It's this whole story, and it's wild how it all goes down, but the movie's hilarious, and it's just a feel-good time. And it's surprisingly well written too, so that's why I'm kind of shocked that it has a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, because I think that the movie is actually really well done. Next on my list is Shooter, a movie that I've seen probably 5 to 10 times in my life. I used to watch it a lot growing up. It's a Mark Wahlberg action movie where he's framed for an assassination that he didn't commit, and he kind of goes on the run and gets a little bit of revenge along the way. It's just a badass movie. I don't know why it has a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think the movie is rather enjoyable and extremely rewatchable. It has some really cool action scenes. It's one of those revenge tales that is satisfying. Next on my list is going to be the Santa Claus 2. Now I love the Santa Claus trilogy overall. There's some of those fun holiday season movies that I love to watch, you know, maybe have some hot chocolate, sit down in a blanket and just relax and enjoy the season. But the first one's by far the best. However, Santa Claus 2 is damn near as good as that first one. It's got a really sweet romantic storyline with Scott Calvin finding Miss Claus over the course of the movie. The movie makes you feel like a kid again when you watch it, and overall I have a lot of nostalgia for the Santa Claus movies, but even setting that aside for this one in particular, I don't know why it has a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes, because I get the movies can be cheesy at times and they don't have the greatest effects, but still, the story is very heartfelt, and I feel like the movie deserved better. Next up is going to be Step Brothers, which actually obsessed me that this movie has a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes because it's hilarious. It's easily one of my favorite comedies of all time, and it's one of the best written comedies. People will quote various characters and moments from this movie all the time, just in society, so I have no clue why this movie's rotten. I think it's one of the smarter comedies in recent years. It might be Will Ferrell's best performance in a comedic role, and comedies are inherently stupid. I get critics usually don't like them because comedies are stupid by nature, but the purpose of these movies are to make people laugh. But this one has those heartfelt moments, and it's a feel-good movie in the end, so I don't know why it's rotten. I take personal offense with this next one. Home Alone 2: Lost in New York has a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Blasphemous. It's by no means as good as the first Home Alone, but critics really dug that one and audiences in general enjoyed that one, so I don't know why Home Alone 2: Lost in New York has a 35%. Does it sort of rehash a lot of the major beats from the first Home Alone? Absolutely. But it's in New York City, and if the main critique is the fact that it's a little too similar to the first Home Alone is loved, so I don't know why you would be upset that the second one takes beats from that first movie that we all know and love. The only critique that I truly understand about this movie is how ridiculous it does get, because in the first Home Alone movie, Marv and Harry get their asses handed to them and they're fine, and it makes sense because paint can to the head, you're probably going to get a concussion, break some bones. They still got a lot of damage done to them, but in this movie, they would have been obliterated multiple times. Like the shot where Marv is literally getting electrocuted and you see his skeleton at one point, come on, he would be dead. But just like the first Home Alone, this is a must-watch every holiday season for me, and I don't get why it's at a 35%. I mean, I get that it's not as good as the first, but that's a little harsh. Next up for me is going to be Saw, with a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time and truly has one of the greatest twists I've ever seen. I wish I was recording my reaction when I first watched this movie because I was jaw to the floor, like shocked by how they pulled that off. It's a very cleverly written film that keeps you on your toes along the way with all these twists and turns. It's probably rotten because there is some gore in the movie and it can be disturbing at times, but compared to all the sequels that would follow, this is by far the tamest Saw movie, and it's not even the most disturbing movie I've ever seen when it comes to blood or violence. There's definitely other movies out there that go over the top. Hell, if you guys have seen The Boys, that might be more disturbing than Saw. But overall, this is a really clever horror thriller film that's impressive because it was created with such a low budget, and you can tell there was so much care put into the script and the overall narrative. It's one of the better horror films I've ever seen. If you guys haven't seen it, avoid all spoilers and go watch Saw immediately. Alright, so number 3 on my list is a movie that I understand the critiques of, but damn do I love it, and that is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This movie is a massive part of my childhood, okay? I love it. I think the Duel of Fate score is wonderful, and it gets me hype whenever I listen to it. You've got Darth Maul, you've got pod racing. I love the exploration of the Jedi Council, and seeing young Anakin Skywalker, who would eventually become Darth Vader, and I rewatch it quite a bit. I understand people don't like it, and sure, it can get a little boring with the political dialogue, and Jar Jar Binks can be a total disaster on screen. I'm aware of all that. The Phantom Menace is not as great as the original trilogy, of course, but it's damn near a top 6 Star Wars movie for me, and I enjoy the hell out of this one without shame. Alright, so my runner-up is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is National Treasure. The movie has a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is genuinely disheartening and disgusts me, because this movie is an absolute blast. Sure, it can be unbelievable at times, and this would never happen in real life. We don't get historical action movies like this. Nick Cage is doing his absurd over-the-top thing, and overall, National Treasure is one of my most rewatched movies in my life, so I don't get the hate for it. 46% is crazy. I am a diehard fan of this movie, and I can't wait for the day that we finally get the third movie, hopefully. But the number 1 movie that I love that's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes is Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Dead Man's Chest, with a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is truly crazy to me because Dead Man's Chest came out in 2006 in the era of blockbuster movies feeling expensive and looking expensive, like where you can tell they actually were out on the water. The practicality of it all was wonderful. The Kraken even looks great, and Davy Jones is one of the greatest CGI products of all time. The story itself is also darker and almost more epic than Curse of the Black Pearl. We explore more side characters like Will Turner and Elizabeth, and even Jack Sparrow has a great arc throughout the film. It's got some of the most memorable action scenes from like a big blockbuster movie, and Dead Man's Chest and the whole first Pirates trilogy is like a rarity where we get this true adventure storytelling on the big screen. I have no clue why this movie is rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. It is almost my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean film, probably my most rewatched, to be honest with you guys. And I think that it's just a fantastic movie, so I don't know why it is rotten. But those are 10 movies that I love that have rotten scores on Rotten Tomatoes. Let me know down below some movies that you love that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Make sure to hit that like button, and again, subscribe and hit that notification bell as I have more videos coming very soon. Feel free to check out my merch store, link down below. Use code STRANGER, all caps, for 20% off your entire order. Feel free to join the Patreon community, that is linked down below as well. Follow me on all my other social medias, I post a lot of content over there on a daily basis. But thank you guys again for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.